So for the last part of the lecture, we're just going to look at some more advanced examples that use the ideas that we've seen in this lecture and take them a little bit further. In order to do that, we're going to need one more data structure called a dictionary. So it's a bit like the lists and the sets that we met last week. Dictionaries are provided as part of the Python language, and dictionaries allow you to look up one value that's associated with another value. So if you know one particular value, you can find another value. Just like in a real dictionary where you can look up a definition that's associated with a word. Okay, that sounds like they're going to be strings, but actually they don't have to be strings. They can be anything. So you could have, say, for example, a phone number that's associated with a name. So that's like a phone directory, or you could have a reverse phone directory where you have a name that's associated with a phone number. Or you can have, in our case, a counter that's associated with a string. So we're going to use the last one, a counter associated with a string, to do some text analysis. Okay. There's a page on W3 Schools that you can look at about dictionaries. So we're going to use this in a function called frequency, which is a function written in the examples. And what it does is it takes a list of items and it calculates the frequency of each item in the list. These items, I mean, they could be strings. They don't have to be strings, but in this case, they will be. And our frequency function just returns the frequency of each item in the list as a Python dictionary. So if you look up, once you've got that dictionary, if you look up an item in that dictionary, you're given the number of times it occurs in the list. Okay, and we can use that for text analysis. So we can do frequency of characters in a string, or what we're going to do, frequency of words in some text. So here's the frequency function. At this stage, you don't really need to understand how it works, but it is pretty straightforward. So suppose we're given a list of items. This function frequency is given a list of items. We create a dictionary, okay, and that is just done by this count equals and these curly brackets creates an empty dictionary. The curly brackets denote a dictionary. And then we just loop over the list of items. So for each item in that list of items, if that's already in the dictionary, in count, then we just increment its value by 1. So if it's already there, if we know we found it in the list already, we're just saying, well, we found another item in the list, so add 1 to the count of that item. If it's not in the list already, if it's not in the dictionary already, then we set the count for that item to be 1. So every time we found an item, we either put it into the dictionary with the count 1 if we haven't found it already, or if it's an existing item that we know we've already found in the dictionary that we put into the dictionary already because we already found it in the list, then we just increment the number of times we found it by 1, and then we return that dictionary back to the program that called it. So there's the code. Loops over the list items, and if it's in the dictionary, increment the count, and if it's not, set the count equal to 1. And now all we need to do, for example, to get the count of each character in a string, you just turn the string into a list, count the frequencies using the frequency function, and print out the count for each letter. Okay, so this, if we wanted to do that for a string, we could just take, as in this example, we can just turn that into a list. So you can see I'm using the list function here to turn that into a list, do the count, which gets this dictionary of how many times each character occurs, and then we can say character frequency, and we just loop over the key in count. So this line here, this for loop loops over each of the values that we found in that dictionary, loops over them, and then prints out the if we use the get function, that gets the frequency. Okay, so if I wanted to do hello world, you can see the output from that analyzing that string would be there's one H, there's one E, there's 3 L's, and so on. Okay. Unfortunately, as they stand, these dictionaries are unordered, so there's no alphabetic order or anything. You can see H, E, L. They're just put in as the letters occur. So if we want to get a sorted list, we have to do a little bit more work, and here's an example that demonstrates that. So we can sort them either by character. So one way of doing that is this, to get the, we often refer to the values we found as the keys in this dictionary, and then so the key of this dictionary is the values that have been found in the list, and we're then finding the values of how often they occur using this get function. So if I want to print out them sorted by characters, so alphabetically, then I just use this sorted function to get the sorted keys, and then I can loop over that. It's just doing, this loop is doing the same thing. It's just that now the keys are sorted. Or if I want to do them by decreasing frequency, I can do the sorted function, but this time I'm getting the key I'm getting is the count. So I want to do it by frequency, not by the character. So I don't want an alphabetic. I want it by frequency. So I get the count here. Then I reverse it so that it's done by decreasing frequency, and then I print it out again. Okay, so you can see, just to show you how that works, in the example, I've sorted it by character in the first one, and you can see D, E, H. So this is alphabetical by the characters in each word. Or perhaps more useful, I've sorted it by decreasing frequency. So this is sorted on the number of times they've occurred, and you can see 3 for L comes first because it's by decreasing frequency, then 2, then 1. Okay, so we can then apply this, that does counts of letters. We can then apply it to the, use exactly the same code. We can then apply it to do a word analysis of the lorem ipsum text. So we just need, in this case, to pass a list of the words into the frequency function rather than a list of letters. And the way we do that is to turn it all into lowercase, because we want to keep, we want a word that's both expressed in uppercase and lowercase in the original text. We'd want to treat it as the same word if it's the same word. So we refer to everything we'll change everything to lowercase. We get rid of all the punctuation. And then we take this split function, and that splits the string into words. Okay, and then we can just do exactly the same. We can print out the words in decreasing frequency. So you see that we're using the same trick here at the top to get the keys for this dictionary in decreasing frequency by sorting them and then doing them in reverse. And then, just because I don't want to print out every single word, I've got a counter here that counts up to 10, and when it's counted up to 10, it jumps out of the loop, which means that when the loop is running, it's just printing out the first 10 most frequent words. And if you run that, that's what you get from that bit of text. So this allows us to do some basic text analysis on any bit of text. You just have to give it the text. You turn that into you split that into words and get rid of the punctuation, as we saw. And then we can use this frequency function to tell us how often each word occurs. So quite a useful function based on the kind of ideas that we've seen in this lecture. As I say, you don't really need to understand how dictionaries work at this stage, but you can see that they can be quite useful things. So what have we seen today? We've looked at lots and lots of things, but they're all quite straightforward and simple to use. So we've seen how to format text. We've seen lots of methods to change the case of strings and strip out leading and trailing spaces. We've seen functions that can be used on strings, so like the length and the minimum and max to get the first letter and the last letter in terms of alphabetically. We've seen that string operators, or we've seen the operators that can be used with strings, like adding them together, which glues them, or multiplying them by a number to get twice as many or 3 times as many, and in or not in to find out if a particular string is contained in another string. We've seen comparisons where we can sort things alphabetically or check whether strings are the same as each other. Loops and slices. So we've seen for running over a string. And we've seen how to slice strings. We've seen how to check what type of characters we've got in a string, whether it's alphanumeric or just alphabetic. And then finally, these string search methods to find particular bits of text in another string, whether it starts with it or ends with it. And we've also seen, as an aside, we saw how methods can be chained together, which can make coding very concise. And finally, we put some of these techniques together and used a Python dictionary for text analysis, just as a demo of how you can take this a bit further. Okay, hope you found that interesting, and I'll see you next week.